I'm wearing gray sweatpants today, and I was thinking about that.
Gray sweatpants?
Gray sweatpants. I was thinking about that question that was like, what's the gray sweatpants of, what are women's gray sweatpants?
Yeah, what is it?
And I asked WeWork, and he put a lot of thought into it. I think his answer was gray sweatpants.
I feel like it's no bra.
Oh, that is what he said. That is what he said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I wasn't wearing a bra, which I never am.
That bisexual
Look
brain.
at that. Welcome to the Holy Hour. I'm Amelia Sampson.
And I'm Liz Ball. I'm so excited that you're home.
I'm so excited that I'm home.
To be recording again.
I know. Thank you for jumping in right after we did our intro so that I wouldn't start talking about something that made no sense. In my sheer panic. My parents listened to that episode where I was saying like, just silence
words.
makes me uncomfortable. And they were like, we've known that for a long time. It's good that you come to terms with it.
This, yeah.
But no, I'm really happy that I'm home too.
Mm-hmm.
The wedding was amazing. It was perfect in every way.
Amelia was slaying in her suit.
Oh, I felt so large
good.
and in charge. When I was texting my friend who was my date to the wedding about like when he was on his way, I was like, I look like a fucking waiter. Because
She did not.
I didn't. Once I got used to it, I did not look like a waiter. But I had like a tie on, like I think it was a men's tie. It felt like a power tie. It was like kind of like a Donald Trump tie on me because it was so long. And then it was
I'm like, I don't know anything about ties, but
a woman's. My dad tied my tie for me. It was like a moment for both of us. Yeah. But the collar on the shirt was like a woman's collar, and they don't make them big enough
like structured
for ties.
Oh.
So I looked like a messy, like stressed out waiter until I got like used to. And then I felt so fucking large and in charge. I was wearing heels and a suit. I felt really good.
It looked so good with like the hair and makeup too. That was like the perfect combination.
Thank you. The hair and makeup team there, they were just the most amazing women.
Also, it just feels so nice to get your hair and makeup done.
Oh my God, it really does. It really, really does. I felt so party. But my brother and his now wife, I've never seen them that happy ever. Like, my brother was smiling the entire day. I was expecting him to be like a little stressed.
Did he cry at all?
Probably. I wasn't there for the first look. I would assume he cried during the first look. The best man dropped the ring in the flowers as he was handing them over because he didn't know that he was going to be responsible for handing over the rings. He dropped
I feel
them in
like
the
the one holding the ring never knows that they're going to be responsible for it.
They told him right before he went in, but everyone thought it was choreographed. It was so funny how it happened. So everyone was like, "Oh, that was on purpose, right?" He was like, "Yep, sure was." But anyway, so now I have a sister-in-law. I've always wanted a sister, and now I have one. But the wedding was perfect. I'm very happy to be back because the East Coast is an exhausting place to be. I don't know how all of y'all that live there do it. I mean, I did it for 8 years, and I feel like I'm still recovering. I feel like I'm still like sleeping that off. Specifically, New York. New York is exhausting.
I haven't been to New York City since I was 16.
I think you would actually be okay there. I think you would thrive.
I think I would thrive just because I'm kind of a bitch.
You're able to be. You are able to be.
I would be allowed to be a bitch.
Yes.
What is your opinion on like when someone becomes single and they like immediately go on like a social media tour of being single?
You mean like deleting like all their pictures of or like liking
like that, but then also just like suddenly they're posting on their story all the time and like very publicly like not with their ex-partner anymore.
I guess it depends on like the side of the breakup that they were on. Like if they did the dumping and they did that feels a little shitty unless the person that they dumped like cheated or something, you know. But if like you were like shitty throughout the relationship and then you dump the person and then you like go on this huge tour, like that feels a little hurtful.
Yeah.
But then like if you get dumped or you dump someone that cheated on you and then you go on this tour, then that's different. That's
so true. Well, I guess I hadn't considered like who is like potentially the dumper and the dumpy in this circumstance. But I was just I'm just thinking like I support the social media tour.
Totally.
In most circumstances, but like you were saying, if someone cheated and then they like are going on a tour, but my perception of that too is like, also it's coming from a place of sadness. Like you're sad and you're insecure, so you're like, I want some approval and attention because the person that I got that from is no longer in my life.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the tone of it. Like,
but it's so fun. Like,
totally, it is fun. I fucking love a social media tour. I mean, obviously. But like, yeah, I think it depends. Like, if you're sad and you're posting, that's different from like you being like, fuck you, you know, if you're the one that cheated. You could, it's so like, it's like a decision tree of like when I would think it's okay.
Yeah, it's so true. It totally is a decision tree.
Many different circumstances that change if it's okay or not. But I'm always I will always be in support of everyone doing whatever feels the best when they're hurting, unless you're like intentionally hurting someone else. Like that's the one caveat. Do whatever you want to do.
I just love watching people go on like a hot girl tour.
Oh yeah.
And you don't need to be a girl to be a hot girl.
Hell no. I know a lot of dudes that have gone on hot girl tours.
Yeah, going on a hot girl tour when you're single.
All day.
I can't stop thinking about what the decision tree would look like. Like, did they cheat? No. Then it's fine. Did they cheat? Yes. No, that's fucked up.
Yeah, it's like, who broke up with who?
Uh-huh.
Did you break up with them? Yes. Did you cheat? Yes. Were you a dick about it? Yes. You don't get to go on the social media tour.
No.
We should make this. I'm going to make this on Excel.
Okay.
Instead of doing actual work tomorrow. I'm so behind on everything.
Hit up Canva.
Oh, hell yeah. We're doing this on Canva.
Mm-hmm.
Subscribe to us on Patreon for our decision tree. Actually, I'm not going to say that. I'm probably not ever going to make this. But still, this is a great time to say it.
This is a great time to drop the socials.
You did a great job last week.
Thank you. I was surprised I could handle that.
You did. I mean, it's a tough burden to bear.
I can't remember all of them.
You did a great job.
We got Patreon, where you have ad-free early episodes.
And then you get to talk on our Discord, which you should also join, about the early episodes. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, at The Holy Hour. Email us your stories at hoelyhourpodcast@gmail.com. Follow moi on everything at Amelia Sampson.
I am Liz Ball So Hard on Instagram and TikTok, and Liz T Ball on Twitter, where you can watch me harass Ted Cruz and Greg Abbott.
But anyway, we're going to try to have a little bit of fun today. We're drinking to make today a little bit less heavy.
Yeah, I walked in and immediately was like, yep,
we're drinking today. I set up a little like vodka soda bar on my table. We're like doing it big today.
Anyways, back to the hot girl tour question. So I have, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I have been noticing lots of people are going through breakups right now.
That's great news for me.
And I just want to say, like, I know people are sad that they have this breakup that just happened, and you know what? There might be a few more breakups coming. Mercury's in retrograde, so who's to fucking say? So I just want to say, like, I'm excited for the people going through a breakup right now, because they're about to have just, like, the fucking, like, hottest girl summer ever.
Hell yeah.
That's just... I am not in charge. That is just the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can sense it. I feel it coming. It's just going to be just like this insane hot girl summer.
It's going to be amazing.
It is going to be the hottest girl summer, because we're going on like year 3 of not really being able to kick COVID, and like, but now things are kind of opening up. You either have had COVID or break through COVID or the vaccine. Like,
yeah,
it's very rare that like someone hasn't had at least one of those. So
you gotta fuck everyone before monkeypox takes over.
It's just I'm being like a little bit of a skepticist. Is that a word? It is now.
I think it is.
I'm a little skeptical about it, because like, okay, at first I was like, COVID's not going to be a thing. That doesn't happen here, because how many times has things not happened here? Like, oh, everyone's freaking out of the bird flu, and like that, nothing really happens.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, like, I don't want to like shoot myself in the foot by saying this, but like, I just don't really think monkeypox is going to be as big of a thing. And I'm going to knock on the wood
from your mouth to God's ear, Liz.
Well, because it's related to smallpox, and like the smallpox vaccine keeps you protected against it pretty well. And most of us have had a smallpox vaccine.
I asked my mom today, and I do.
Yeah, it's like that was like one of the first vaccines. They just give it to you like right out the womb. They're like, and here's your smallpox vaccine.
Yeah.
They slap you on the butt and give you to your mom.
Yeah, just a slap on the butt and a smallpox vaccine.
Yeah.
Send you out the door.
And that's that.
And a huge bill. Welcome to America.
Yep. They're like, you're now born, so we don't care about you.
Yeah, true. Shit. Yeah, it's anyway. I could have like a whole political conversation now, but the hot girl
we
summer.
all hit that reset button. You and I just hit the reset button. I'm like, let's not do it.
Yep,
we're not gonna do it.
Just throw this bitch in reverse. But yeah, no, it's gonna be a hot girl summer. I'm excited to not be the only fucking single one.
I want to give some single girl advice. Like, I think, like, I was about to have such a hot girl summer, and then I met Mr. Liz, but the way that worked, I did have like a pretty decent like phase where I was having a hot girl summer, and dating a lot of people, and like I think the thing that set me up to like feel good about that was just like being in a place where I'm like, no, I don't want to date anyone. Like, I love myself so much. I'm not trying to ruin this by with another person being involved.
Word.
Not to say that, like, you know, dating someone is going to ruin who you are. But I think that just...
You had some, like, examples of, like, you not feeling your best because of... So, like, it's fair that you would think that.
Well, I definitely would default to, like... Before I was, like, really, like, comfortable with myself, I would just look for the best in whoever I was dating. I'm like, well... you know, maybe this will change, or like I would just kind of make an excuse as to like why it didn't, like, oh, maybe this will change about them or this will change about me, even though deep down I like the feelings just weren't there.
Yeah.
So then I got to a point where like I had spent so much time alone that I was just like, yeah, I got a good thing going with myself. So then dating was just a fun thing. Like,
yeah,
I wasn't dating because I wanted a boyfriend or a partner or a husband. I was just like, you know what? I just like, I want to like make out with people and like have sex. Like,
hell yeah.
And that's such a good headspace to be in because then sex is fun and it doesn't have any weight, because before that it did have kind of a lot of weight for me of like, I don't know. It just felt like I didn't want to be used. But then once you're in like a good place with yourself, like having sex actually is really fun. It took me a long time to get to that point though.
Totally. Yeah. You have to I feel like there's so much stuff that has to line up before you can get into that headspace.
Yeah. And I want everyone who is like newly single to like be in that headspace and have a hot girl summer. And just like, you guys are all like young and beautiful. Just like flirt and have a fun summer and don't spread monkeypox.
Yeah.
I looked up monkeypox and they're just like pushing this narrative so hard that it was like spread from having sex at a rave in Europe. Yeah. And I was like, you're just like, I think they're just trying to like scare people about sex. Like people having sex at raves. It's so depraved. Like,
good Lord.
I didn't read too much of it. I didn't read any of the articles because I was like, I can't do this right now.
Speaking of raves, somebody that went to EDC, this is worth noting, just in terms of like watching out for yourself. This person was at a rave, was at EDC, like the rave, and he was standing behind a couple, and he like could just tell something was off about them. Like there was like an older man.
Sex trafficking?
No, that was my first thought too. An older guy and then like a kind of like a younger woman, and like they were just like kind of sketchy, and toward the end of the set they turned around and looked at him and they like unfolded this piece of paper and it had like a mountain of like white powder on it and they blew it in his face.
What the fuck?
And he like covered up his mouth like right away, luckily, but he like got out of the crowd and he like started feeling like lightheaded, and they I guess had like blown something in his face that like people use in other countries to like make people paralyzed like temporarily so that they can rob them.
Fuck that.
So that's something, if you just like be hyper vigilant, and like if somebody feels sketchy, just protect yourself.
Vegas fucking sucks.
That's just so fucking scary that that's like a thing that people can get their hands on. I think it's called like devil's breath, I think is what they call it. Anyway, just
Now you just gotta watch out for people paralyzing you so they can steal your shit.
Mm-hmm. It's really fucked up. So stay hyper vigilant. Back to Hot Girl Summer and single girl advice. This is the perfect time to segue into this email that you haven't read that I read that I wanted to read to you to see your advice.
Oh God, I'm excited. I'm like a little nervous, and I think it's just because
you're usually the ones who read the emails.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't like being surprised.
It's not anything like that.
Like if someone proposes to me, I might punch them in the face because I'm just gonna be so shocked. I'm sorry.
But yes.
Yes.
This email that we are about to read has mentioned some physical and emotional abuse. Very brief mentions, but they're still mentioned. So if you're triggered by that, please skip like the next like probably 8 minutes, I'm going to guess is what that's going to come out to. If I get that right, I'm going to be so impressed. But just skip the next little bit.
Just smash that fast forward button.
Hell yeah. We got this email from a listener today. And the subject line is, "My ex is an awful human being." Liz has not read this yet, and there's a question at the end that I want her take on.
Okay.
I also haven't really thought much about it.
Okay.
All right. Hello, ladies. My name is blank. And then she says that she is 33, female. She says, "I discovered your podcast about 2 weeks ago, and I listen every day while at work. I feel like you're my friends, and you make me laugh constantly at work, so thank you." We are your friends. We don't just feel like your friends. We are your friends. "I just listened to your cheating episode and thought I'd share my story with my ex. I dated him from 2013 to 2015. I met him while I was a bridesmaid in my friend's wedding while he was a groomsman. The first 3 months were great, as it usually is in a new relationship. Then his true colors started showing. If I did anything he didn't like, as in saying something sarcastic, rolling my eyes, disagreeing, he would lose it. He would scream and yell and call me awful names. One example of this was we were on our way to a Giants game. After having stopped for breakfast, I was quietly eating my bagel when he missed the exit for the stadium. Mind you, he has been to over 50 Giants games, and he started screaming and flipping out on me because it was my fault I didn't tell him the exit was coming up, which I have never done before. I was crying so hard I started choking on my bagel. He then yelled more, saying I was choking on purpose to get him to stop yelling. I eventually swallowed my bagel but couldn't stop crying. He took the next exit and started driving home. He then said he'll turn around and we can go to the game if I promise to not bring this up and forget it happened, so we did.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. After about 6 months, he also started not wanting to have sex with me anymore. We went the whole summer without sex, including going on our first vacation together. He always made excuses, and it hurt me every day, thinking something was wrong with me and he was no longer attracted to me. I brought it up multiple times, and he always said nothing was wrong, he just wasn't in the mood. Almost 2 years in, he broke up with me over text while I was on my way to work.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. The night before...
I'm gonna fucking punch this man in the dick.
I know, I would love to find him. The night before, I had asked him again if anything was wrong and why he never wanted to have sex. 3 days later, he posted a picture of sushi and tagged a girl from work I was suspicious of. I flat out asked if he had cheated on me, and he said yes, so he was having sex, just not with me. He proposed to her 6 months later. Since he is still friends with my friend's husband, I see occasionally what's going on in his life through social media. After being married to her for 5 years, he then cheated on her and got a 20-year-old pregnant. He's now 35. I also learned he hit the girl he cheated with multiple times through the relationship.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So to say I dodged a bullet, I dodged a fucking bullet. I am now in a happy, loving relationship, but this ex caused major trauma, and I don't think I ever recovered. Do you have any advice to not let old relationships affect new ones? It's a pretty extreme example.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, like, I don't want to assume there's PTSD there, but, like, if you had PTSD from that relationship, no one would blame you.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect there
Jesus
to be.
fucking Christ,
yeah.
First of all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think that, like, there's no way that, I mean, this is just my opinion. I don't think there's a way that, like, your old relationship isn't going to affect a new relationship because, and I think this is, like, you're going to be triggered and you're going to have to work through those triggers with a new person so you can, like, retrain your brain to not process things that way, to not feel like you have to protect yourself or be defensive. So, like, in some ways it'll help you build the relationship that you want to have because you have to kind of learn in a new experience from a similar situation, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And I think things like that, they're going to affect you for an unpredictable amount of time. Everyone's different. Like, you can still be traumatized years and years later.
Yeah.
But as long as you're aware of it, you are like proactively like present in your current relationship and like aware that you're being triggered. We talked a lot about stuff like this last week with Ariel, in terms of like conscious partnership and like knowing you're being triggered and having to kind of retrain yourself.
Yeah.
So that's what I think, like, as long as you're patient with yourself and you're like explaining to your partner, like, this is why this situation's hard for me and I know it's different.
Yeah.
But I need you to understand like where I'm coming from and how I'm feeling, because then they know it's not something specifically about them.
Totally. That's what I was just about to say too. It's like if you're able to communicate that with your current partner, it also gives the past less power, like in your mind, just dealing with it alone. Like, I feel like
that's such a good way.
Our psychiatrist always says, like, we're not meant to keep things inside. Like, we're social beings. So it's like whenever we like say things out loud to somebody, it just gives it less power.
Yeah. And that's such a nice feeling where you're like, yes, oh, thank God I just said it.
Yeah, totally. And also the fact that you recognize that you're being triggered and it's like seeping into your current relationship is already like a huge first step that not a lot of people get to. Like, that's very profound that you recognize that. And like, your new partner, like, in your words, is loving, so it's like they are going to want to support you however they can. I'm sure. So I mean, I'm not saying that you haven't brought it up to them, but
it feels really hard at first too when you're like, because it'll feel like such a minor thing that you're triggered by, because you also don't know what's going to trigger you.
Yeah. Oh my
you're
God.
Like,
yeah,
how do I even bring this up? So it feels so hard at first, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And then like eventually you guys kind of have each other figured out a little bit, so then communicating is so much easier, just kind of how communicating is so easy with your friends. Like,
yes,
you have those little like glances at each other, you can just know what the other person's thinking, and what they might need to hear. So
yeah,
it takes time, and you have to be patient with yourself, and your partner needs to be patient with you, and you have to be patient with that. There's just so much patience involved.
Totally.
And obviously like honest communication, that's been the only thing that's really worked for me, is just like being honest, but then also being like trying to find an objective like standpoint of like, okay, if I were a third party, how would I explain this to my partner, if that makes sense?
Okay, that's a really good way to think about it.
Yeah, like try and remove the emotion from it, because I know like what I'm feeling isn't necessarily his fault, and like how he responds is going to dictate what happens next.
Damn.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's a really, really good way to think about it. It's so hard to like look at it from like 10,000 feet when you're like so emotionally involved in it, but as an outsider, like you're hearing how like we're talking about it, like of course you feel this way.
Yeah. Well,
it's impossible to not.
And honestly, it's like so much easier said than done, of like, and then you remove your emotions from it and then you tell your partner.
Right. But like it's
a practice.
It is a practice. And I think like a big first step in that too is like giving yourself grace, because of course you feel this way.
Yeah.
Like, of course anybody would, and everybody does. That comes out of like a traumatic relationship. Like, it would be a little weird if like you could just like turn it off, like
well,
that.
And this guy is so like casually abusive, like the same way, like the things she described is just like, you hear about dudes like that all the time.
Yeah.
Just like wandering around traumatizing everyone they fucking talk to.
Yeah. And you really, really did dodge multiple.
Ugh, God.
Like that.
Like, imagine being trapped having kids with someone like that.
Jesus, I really can't. Like, getting a 20-year-old pregnant, like, when you're 35 and you already have a wife and kids, like, how, like, some people truly, like, some tigers really never change their stripes. Like, holy shit.
Sheesh.
But, like, I think that the only way to really manage that is, like, giving yourself grace, being honest with yourself and your partner. And it sounds like you at least already have half of that down. You might already be doing the full thing. You might already be talking to your partner about it. But like from this email, you at least have the first half down. Like, I think just like being patient, like Liz said, patience was the word that you used. Yeah. Being patient with yourself through this whole thing is like the really only way, because like all that you have to go off of is your past experiences. Like I'll notice, I haven't been with my ex for what, 2 years now, a year and a half. And I'll still notice things that'll trigger me in ways that I didn't recognize were even things until I'm like triggered by them. And when I was first going through this breakup, I was like, I have to like figure everything out by myself. I can't like, I can't get into a relationship until I figure this all out. And my therapist was like, no, some of the work has to be done when you're in a relationship.
Yeah. Like that was the thing I wasn't expecting either.
Yeah.
Like literally the same thing of like, yeah, I'm going to work on myself and like fix all of this stuff and all of my trauma. And then I'll be ready to go and like be in a good relationship. And then you're in one and then you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Why is this triggering me?
Yeah, because it brings up new stuff.
Yeah, because you like, sure, you can work on stuff by yourself, but there's some things like you need to have a partner to work through.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Totally.
That's the only way I know how to describe it.
No, that's
like,
true.
You don't know how you're going to respond with a partner until you have one.
It's like learning something in college and then like going out and doing it. It's like, oh fuck, I actually didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Learning versus doing.
How do I do taxes?
Like, wait, it's like reading about how to do surgery.
Oh my god, yes, and then actually going and doing the surgery. That's so fucking true. That's such a good analogy. Yeah.
You gotta train.
Then
you'll be an expert. You'll be a surgeon.
Gotta get out there in the field. My
be
therapist,
a heart surgeon.
She calls it she says like, because I always talk about how like it feels like my ex is still taking up like a lot of like space in my life in different ways. And she's like, well, of course he does, because like he's such a big part of your life. But like as you keep getting all these new experiences and living your life, like he's always going to be a part of right. He's always going to be a part of the painting, but he's just going to be like not as significant of a part of the painting. But he'll always be like a little dot on the painting. But you're going to have this like big, vibrant painting of a life, like surrounding it in ways that makes the past still there, but not like as big of a part of the painting, not as big of a focus. So yeah. I mean, like my TLDR is just like be patient, give yourself grace, and keep being honest with yourself and your partner about it.
That's good advice. And that like painting comparison is chef's kiss.
It really, really helped me to think about. There was this NPR story that I wanted to talk to you about that I didn't know about, but like everybody was bringing it up at my brother's wedding. They're like, your podcast, you should talk about, which I fucking love, by the way.
I love that.
There were so many people there that were like, oh, I watch your videos. I listen to your podcast. People that I haven't even met, like people on the bride's side of the family. Anyway, but they brought up this whole idea of like the stigma of being a mama's boy is now being thought of as a flex, when like a while back it was thought of as an insult. Like people would be like, mama's boy, and now it's like men are like embracing that they're mama's boys. And I thought that it was interesting because I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it, and like, so there's a few parts to this. When I was growing up, so my mom is Italian. Obviously, I've mentioned that before. I always wanted to marry an Italian boy because I think just Italian men are just like hot. My mom was like, promise me you will not marry an Italian boy. They are all mama's boys. And so when I was thinking about this story, I was like, there are tiers of mama's boys. There's like mama's boys that like are still like attached by the belly button to their mom, you know? And like that's a lot.
Still got that umbilical cord.
Yeah, like it's time to do a little snip Giovanni. This is the first Italian name I could think of.
Giovanni
Francisco Paparabici. But then there's also the mama's boys that are like, they just like love their mom and they like really respect their mom and they like think the world of their mom and they like having them around. And like
I've noticed like a lot of men who were raised by single mothers, those are the men who are like,
yeah,
wow, I love women.
God. Yes, that's so true. So they're not like being coddled by their moms, but they like love their moms so much. And then like as they're talking about this, before I get to like the punchline of like what they were talking to me about, I was thinking like when I see like a picture of a guy with his mom on his dating profile, I'm like, hell yeah. Or like they mention how much they love their mom. I'm like, that is like a green flag. So, and I have stats. I feel like you today. I have so many notes.
Ooh. What a compliment. Wow.
I know you're always so prepared. I was like,
oh my god. I feel like I'm flying by the seat of my pants in life in general.
You know, it doesn't seem like it from the outside.
Thank you.
So there is this stat. Okay. There have been, so this is an NPR article again. Love NPR in this household. There's been over 3 million mentions of terms like mama's boys on people's profiles over the past few years. Between December and April, there was a 20% increase in these terms being mentioned. Men who include mama's boys on their profile have a 7% higher probability of exchanging phone numbers with another user, which I thought was really, really interesting. So they were like, yeah, 7% might not seem like much, whatever. But when you think about there being millions and millions of people on dating apps like OkCupid, it's actually a pretty high success rate. Which I thought was really interesting because that's changed a lot over the years. Like that, it really was an insult. Like, I mean, back as far as like 10 years ago that I can think of, really.
Well, before mama's boy meant like you're kind of like a little wimp, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But
that's true.
Like now I wouldn't think of it as that. Like now I would think of mama's boy as someone who wants to date someone to take care of them. Like who wants to date someone who's like their mom.
Interesting. That's an interesting take.
You know?
I'm sure that
But it also depends on like if there's other context coloring that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because it's like there's like the like Italian kind of stereotype mama's boy, like, and like Greek mama's
like,
boys.
You're so thin, you need to eat more.
And like you're like kind of always
you
competing.
Eating at college?
You're competing. Their mom is always competing with it. This was like my fucking ex. You're like always competing with their mom as being like the most important woman in their lives.
I'm gonna read something to you once we wrap this up that ties in perfectly.
Amazing. Okay. This is the last part of that stat. It's only 1.4% of men who actually use the terms my mother, my mom, or my mama, but those 1.4% of men had a 26% increase in the likelihood to resign from the site because they had met someone, which like when like as I'm hearing people telling me about this article before I had found it, the fact that that was my first thought was like, actually, yeah, I do kind of love seeing that on dating apps. And then the whole thing was like men leave dating apps quicker.
Well, I think it shows that they're like, yeah, and I respect women.
That's the thing, is like I think that there is definitely, and like you're saying, it's like a context clue kind of thing that separates out like whether or not it's like a problematic kind of mama's boy. But
there's definitely problematic mama's boys.
Oh yeah, no, right. This isn't a end all be all.
It also depends on the mom. Like, do they admire their mom?
That's so fucking true.
Or is their mom just like that kind of helicopter mom who like I have read about moms with sons who raise the son that they wish that their husband was.
Damn.
So
yikes.
I know. So there's a lot of layers here. There's a lot of like Oedipus complex happening.
I hate that.
Just like, yeah, your husband like fucking sucks in certain areas of your relationship, so you raise your son to not be like that. So then you're jealous when your son starts dating someone because now you're watching someone reap the benefits of your work. Does that, which is fucking weird, but like, that's the theory. And I'm gonna read you a tweet I saw from a real article.
Oh god.
It was screenshots of the article.
Okay.
I saw it this morning in my usual morning scroll, and I liked it, so I know I'll be able to find it.
Oh my god.
This tweet is from punished_Kate, CAIT. And then she says, have mothers of sons considered being fucking normal? Here's the screenshot. It's on a website called Grown and Flown.
Hate it already.
I'm only going to assume that's like some weird Christian website. And the title of the article is When Your Son's New Love is the Other Woman.
Ew.
I know. It's by Lisa LaShaw. This was written in 2017. I knew this day was coming when you would walk through the door with her. The girl you say is everything. I am queasy and nauseous and have my head bent between my knees to prevent another fainting episode. We should never have sent you away to college. This was your father's ingenious idea. You could have lived at home and attended a local university, and then we, or at least me, could have kept an eye on you and discouraged early love. Her name is Diane. Big whoop. She's an honor student. Okay, not bad, but so are you. That's not a reason to pick a life mate. She's welcome to have dinner with our family, since that's the only way I'm going to have any quality time with you. I will pull this off with the finesse of centuries-old royalty. She wants to know my favorite flower? None of her business. I don't need her trying to impress me. Why did you tell her I'm a good cook? Is she expecting me to prepare your favorite meal? Great. So she doesn't cook, does she? Did you mention to her that you'll be going to grad school right after college? I have an epiphany while scraping off the dessert plates. My son is in love with a young woman who is an awful lot like me. You know how they say that daughters look to marry men that remind them of their fathers? Does someone want to take credit for knowing that my son's trying to find women that remind them of their mothers? She's really adorable. He's really blessed. And then there's a screenshot underneath of Lisa's bio, and it says, Lisa LaShaw is a mental health professional specializing in adolescents, blended families, and women's issues. She conducts parenting skills workshops and empowerment circles for women throughout New York. In her silly times, she creates puppet shows with characters who say inappropriate things to get laughs from the audience.
And like incest? Puppet incest?
Like, do you just do like a puppet recreation of Oedipus? Like... But the tweet that is the screenshot underneath, she said, say psych right now. Like,
seriously,
this woman's a mental health professional. Say psych right now.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and I think this is just way more common than we think it is.
And it's like, part of me wants to be like, oh, I don't have a son, so like I'll never understand. But like, there's a difference between being protective and wanting the best for your son and like that. Where it's like, we shouldn't have sent you off to college.
I literally, like, I was thinking, like, my mom isn't fucking like that with my brother. Like,
what the fuck?
Mr. Liz's mom isn't like that at all.
What the fuck?
Like, your mom's probably not like that with your brother.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think, so I do think this is common, but, like, and I think it's more common than we, like, really know. But,
oh my god.
Fucking bananas.
I mean, like, my ex's mom, this
is her. This is your ex's mom.
Right.
She's like, she saw you as the other woman.
Oh, that's exactly how I felt. Like, and like the second that she had the opportunity to like give me the boot, there was a this kind of ties in with the social media tour at the beginning of our conversation too.
Single girl social media tour.
When him and I first broke up, I like posted a picture of me that he had taken of me, and like it was like kind of revealing. I don't know, it's me, but like he had taken it, and like the caption was about like sadness and like grief. And when him and I first got back together, when he was turning on his girlfriend, he had cited that his mom had like texted him when I posted that, like talking shit about me posting that. Yeah.
Why would he tell you that?
I don't know. Why would he do anything that he did? But like it honestly, like I always felt like I was in competition with her. And, like, that's a weird fucking thing. And, like, hearing that, what you just read about,
that
like,
is so fucking
why did
weird.
she ask my favorite type of flower? I would do that shit. And I felt like I never, ever got her approval, ever. Even when I was, like, giving my entire world to him.
That's objectively weird as fuck.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like, his mom being so mean and spiteful towards you.
And to my mom. She was always so rude to my mom.
The listeners need to know this. Amelia's mom is a gem.
She's like, an angel.
When I went to your house for Thanksgiving, I was so happy to be around your parents.
Oh, good.
Like,
They're
because
so happy to have you there.
And then, like, especially at that time too. Like, that's when Mr. Liz and I broke up for a day, and I was just like really traumatized. And my parents wanted me to come home to see them, but like it was just too expensive, and it was like peak COVID. So I was like, I can't risk it. Like, I'm not going to risk going to see you at the last minute. And then it just wasn't worth it. And then I stayed here, but Amelia invited me over. And, like, your parents are so lovely.
They really are.
They're just
I'm so lucky.
They're parents to everyone, you know?
Mhm.
Like anyone you're friends with, they're like, okay, come on in.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, they really are. They love people. They still talk about they're like, tell us we need to see her.
oh.
Like, what? You guys have only met twice?
I think, yeah, only 2 or 3 times.
That's so funny. Yeah,
It doesn't feel like that.
they also listen to the podcast, so they feel like they know you.
Hi.
Like better than they do, which they know
know
you really well.
Yeah, they know me better than my own parents. Some would say.
But that's the thing is, like, my parents are so great and they're so loving and they're so, Jesus, welcoming to everyone. I knew that was going to fucking happen. I just spilled vodka on myself, y'all. It's one of those days. But they're so welcoming and loving that, like, I really, really want to connect with my partner's parents. And so, like, my ex's mom not liking me, his dad liked me. I fucking loved his dad. But his mom,
I bet she was so jealous and hated that.
oh, for sure, because they were divorced. They had gotten divorced when he was young. Yeah, they didn't have a relationship, but he didn't like me at first either, but it was because, like, my ex was spending money on me. That's like a whole other story. But yeah, I just, like, more than anything wanted to connect with her and I just couldn't. And then that was the honestly one of the hardest things about ending my relationship with Squints was loved his parents. I loved his whole family, his sister, her partner. Like, I just loved all of them so much. And whenever I was, like, hanging out with them, like, I was over there for the Super Bowl and it was like, we were just like, I felt like part of the family and I was like, this is what I was missing with my ex. But everything is a lesson or a blessing, as I've said once or twice on this podcast. And
let's read another email and then our sex fact of the week. It might be a little redundant, but I wanted to read some medical advice from a listener.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay.
That I've been meaning to read,
cool.
And I keep fucking forgetting.
I love it.
So this one is just titled Question for the Pod. And this listener writes, hello, parasocial besties.
Love that.
I've been dating my boyfriend for a little over a year now. We don't live together, but we are neighbors. He lives 3 houses down the street.
Convenient.
I know. I'm, like, jealous. Because this arrangement works so well for us, I don't see us moving in together anytime soon. My boyfriend also has 2 daughters, ages 8 and 6, and I love them dearly. However, I also love having my own space separate from them. I saw a comment on Instagram from Liz saying she and Mr. Liz do not live together. I know they have been together longer than me and my boyfriend have, so I was just curious what your thoughts are on cohabitating with a partner. Is it something you want eventually? Not something you're considering right now? My biggest fear is that I'll never be ready for it. I love my boyfriend and I stay over at his place a few times a week, but since I live so close, it's not like I'm leaving any stuff at his place. I don't even have a toothbrush there because I just brush my teeth before I come over and when I get back home. I've lived alone for 6 years and I love it. Am I selfish for not really wanting this to change? I will say if he didn't have kids and family members with poor boundaries coming and going frequently, I might feel different. Thanks for all you do.
That's a really good question. I'll let you answer first. I have thoughts that are less immediate.
Amelia and I were actually, like, talking about this somewhat earlier today.
Oh yeah, that's true. We were.
So Mr. Liz and I have, like, had conversations about living together because we were watching like the shipping container home show where, like, they make houses out of shipping containers. And we were watching that and we, like, kept talking about, like, what we would do and how we would, like, build it and decorate it, how many shipping containers we'd need. And then we started making, like, Pinterest boards for them.
You guys are so fun.
We're just nerds. So then I was like, this is so fun to, like, hypothetically talk about living together. And, like, we are both so into interior decorating too. Like, it would be so fun to decorate a place with him. And then I brought it up, like, at the end of our trip, like, let's consider talking about this a little more seriously because I'm not in a rush and, like, neither is he, but there are some logistics that need to be planned because, like, we both pay rent.
Right.
So it's like we have leases to figure out. And then if you break your lease in Seattle, they show up and, like, beat you with a metal stick and take all your money or something. So
I'm dealing with it right now.
Yeah. So I just, that's kind of why I was like, let's, like, think about talking about it. And we've like had a few conversations and, like, I would like to live together because I would like to reap the benefits of having half the rent and half the utilities.
Yeah, that's definitely a benefit.
I've also lived alone for almost 10 years. So, like, my home is it's a place I love being. I have intentionally made it a place I love being. Like, everything I have is just, it's there for a purpose, and it brings me joy. How the conversation ended up going after I was like, let's think about this and revisit, like, in the summer maybe. He, like, a month later, he was like, yeah, so one of my friends is moving here, and like, I asked him if he would want to live with me and my roommate in a bigger place, and I was like, oh, what the fuck?
Excuse me?
Yeah, I was like, okay. So then that prompted us having this conversation a little bit faster than I wanted to, because I was just like, well, let's think about it. Like, I'm not ready right now, but I want us to talk about it and plan ahead a little, because we have to.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, this fucking sucks to hear, because I literally just brought this conversation up to you and was like, hey, let's, like, talk about living together at some point, because I would like that. And then now you're like, anyways, I'm going to go live with two dudes. Like, it's a frat house. So,
yeah.
So he was like, I totally understand, like, that this hurt your feelings, and I was not being very considerate. So that was a different conversation. But he was like, I'm not ready to like, I don't want to live together soon. Like, I'm not ready. And then that planted a few questions, because I was like, okay, why? Like, are you not ready because you don't ever want to live with me, and you just, like, that's not the future you want? Because then we have some other conversations we need to have.
Right.
So then I finally just asked him, because I was like, it's okay, like, that. I asked him why he doesn't want to live together soon, like, why he would rather live with his friend who moved here than with me. And he was like, because I'm worried, like, we have such a good thing going. I'm worried that, like, moving in together is going to fuck it up, because neither of us have ever lived with a partner. And there's just, like, a lot of, like, what if we piss each other off? And that's kind of inevitable. Like, you're going to get on each other's nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, we don't live together, and we still sometimes get on each other's nerves. So it's just, like, inevitable that, like, you're going to, like, get on each other's nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
I think no matter who you live with, that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
I have my own set of concerns, and so does he. Like,
Totally.
We had such similar concerns of, like, okay, if we live together, like, is that going to fuck up this relationship?
That's, like, a best case scenario reason for not wanting to live together.
Yeah. Like, and so when he said that, I think I took, like, a day to think. I was so relieved when he explained why. And I took, like, a few days to think about that, because I was like, okay, that makes sense. And I let him know, like, I have similar worries.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I know I didn't want to bring this up again, because I wanted you to, like, kind of take control of this conversation moving forward. But, like, I want you to know that if you're not ready, that means neither of us are ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because then what? Like, I pressure you into living with me.
And then that's not fun for you.
No, I don't want to have to pressure someone to, like, be with me.
Yeah.
And then I also, like, neither of us will end up happy in that situation. Like, he'll resent me for pressuring him, and then I'm going to feel the burden of that resentment. And then, like, it's just not going to be a good time.
Right.
So, like, and then also after we had that conversation, I'm like, well, I love living by myself, and I love my apartment. So I'm just going to, like, soak up the time I do get to have by myself, because if this continues down the path it's going down, then, like, when am I going to have alone time, you know? Or
right.
I was just like, okay, I'm just going to enjoy this for now, because I know at some point in the future I'm going to be like, oh, I didn't appreciate when I was living by myself.
Yeah.
So
totally.
That's kind of how I'm seeing it now. But, like, eventually I would like to live together, but I'm also at the point where I'm like, I'm not in a rush, because if I'm thinking in terms of my entire life, this is such a, like your therapist said, this is just such a small part of the painting.
Mm-hmm.
And it can feel so big, because it is a big step. But in the scheme of your life, so let's say, like, you marry your partner, or I marry Mr. Liz, like, there's going to be, like, a time where or anyone I marry, there's going to be a time in my life where, like, I will have lived with that person more than I've lived alone.
Damn.
So I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I should just like take advantage of this and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
So that's my stance. Like, if you're not ready to live together, and it sounds like you both are happy in your situation. I've also worried, like, I've lived alone for 10 years. Like, what is it going to be like for me to try and adjust to living with someone again?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good jumping off point for how I'm thinking about all of this. First of all, like, it makes sense that you're not like in like a super rush because you're like neighbors with your boyfriend. So it's like, why would you?
If I were in that situation, I'd be like, no, we're going to stay.
Yeah, this is staying this way. And also, like, with what Liz is saying too, of like communicating with your partner of like why too, is like, I think I give you so much credit for like getting to the like root of why he wasn't ready, because like that's where all the discomfort lies. Like, it's not like, oh, okay, well, like, how can we make this work for both of us? It's like, no, why are you feeling the way that you're feeling? And then, like, let's attack it from there. That's like,
yeah,
that's the way to handle it.
Well, and the honesty helps so much, because I was worried, like, yeah, I was worried he didn't want to live together because he just, like, didn't see a future with me.
Right.
And then that's not the case at all. He was like, no, I definitely want to live with you at some point. Yeah. It's just like, I'm not ready right now.
Right.
So
yeah,
that calmed a lot of my fears, because I was like, well, fuck, if you don't see a future with me, then
we got to talk about that.
We are probably going to break up.
Right. But it's like, what, like the whole idea of like, I've gotten so used to living alone. Like, what is it going to be like? Like, everything is always scarier from the outside. And this is coming from someone that I am nowhere even close. I have no prospects for who I'm going to live with. But like, as an outsider, everything is scarier from the outside.
Oh, totally.
And also, like, you were just saying earlier about like you're like being single and like hot girl summer and like doing whatever you want. Like, you've already adjusted your life so much to fit this person into it. Like, this is just another step of it. Like, you've already had to compromise a lot of your alone time to be around Mr. Liz and like be around your partner. And it's like, when you make that next step of living together, like, there's going to be other compromises that just like, some of it's going to be uncomfortable and some of it's just going to make sense. And I feel like, as an like somebody that's looking at it from the outside looking in, it feels like you're going to be the only person that like needs alone time once in a while, when in reality, like, everybody does at some point. So it's like,
you're going to need alone time. Your partner's going to need alone time.
Figuring out those like patterns of like when you're going to just like maybe having like a 2-bedroom instead of a 1-bedroom. If like, you know, that's like something that you can do, then like you can have some alone time once in a while. I have some friends that live together. They used to live in a 1-bedroom. They live in a 2-bedroom now. And a big part of why they did that was because like, if one of them needed to be like on a call in the living room, the other one only could go into the bedroom. Like, that was the only option.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck, like, that's so, you're on top of each other all the time. They moved into a 2-bedroom and everything changed. Like, everything is so much better now for them. And like, that's not the case for everyone. Not everybody needs to do that. But it's like, just figuring out how to exist together and adjusting for that is just like when you start dating someone after being single for a long time. Like, you figure out ways around like the issues that you're running into.
My stance too is like, you don't need to figure it all out right now.
No.
It's gonna come with time and working together on it. Like, of like, okay, well, we have to figure out how to do this.
Right.
And yeah, don't move in together until you both are ready for it. Like, because one of you might be ready sooner than the other, and that's also okay.
Yeah.
Like, So I've noticed that Mr. Liz needs a little more time than I do for certain things, but that also doesn't bother me. Like, I'm like, okay. And as soon as I let him know that it doesn't bother me, then things are just, they run smoother. And it's easier said than done, because everyone just wants to know what the future is. Like, what is the future going to hold? Am I going to be with this person forever? Am I like, what's going to happen? Like, you just want to know. And that's just part of being a person.
And also a person with anxiety. Like,
yes.
Anxiety doesn't like having things unanswered.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes a lot of like reminders and like consciously reminding myself that, like, it's okay to not have the answers right now, because right now I have a relationship that's fucking great. So I'm just going to like enjoy it for what it is for now. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, it took me a long time to get there mentally. Yeah. I even told him recently that I was just like, regardless of whatever ends up happening in our relationship, I'm just so thankful that it even got to feel this way. about another person, because it like it's so rare
it really is
to feel like that about someone. So I'm thankful that I even got to experience that feeling.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
I love that for you.
Thanks. All right, let's wrap this thing up with a
sex fact of the week. Sex fact of the week.
Sex fact of the week.
Hey!
Hey! Should we just keep going higher and higher?
Yeah.
Ow!
Ow!
And now we're sounding like dolphins now. Okay, so this is from our in-house ER nurse.
Hell yeah.
And this is like circling back to an episode from April, like late April.
There was this article about this guy. Lad Bible posted it. If you didn't listen to the episode, this guy masturbated so hard that he
popped a lung.
He popped a lung, and when he got into the ER,
the episode's called "Lung Popping Masturbation."
Yes, it should be easy to find.
Yeah.
But once he got in there, the doctors were saying that they were hearing crunching sounds. So that's what this message is about.
And then it's also tied into another conversation we had about like guys sunning their balls. So this is from in-house ER nurse. From the Holy Hour. And she says, so the crunching is called crepitus. Apparently SPM affects males in an 8-to-1 ratio, but it doesn't happen via trauma, so it can't be related to men just being stupid. Who knows why? Smoking is a risk factor, and I guess it can happen with Valsalva maneuvers. So if he was holding his breath and building pressure, that's what it could be.
You had suggested that during the episode too.
I have no memory.
Asphyxiation, that was the thing you brought up.
It wouldn't be related to asthma, and I would kind of doubt auto asphyxiation because that is your airways, not your lung tissue. There we go. And she said, also, here's another reason you should not sun your balls. You will get skin cancer. That area is not supposed to get sun. There was an influencer thing about that butthole tanning a while ago, and dermatologists were like, bro, don't do that.
Butthole tanning?
Yeah, there's another one. It's like a picture of like a bunch of dudes sunning their buttholes.
So we went from bleaching to tanning our buttholes.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
She says also vitamin D is a precursor to testosterone in the body, but also other sex steroids.
The more you hoe.
That's just like a fun little follow-up
I
sex
love
fact.
that.
Follow-up sex fact of the week.
But also, if you're getting your like science news from Tucker Carlson, you're probably not listening to this podcast.
Well, I think the irony here too is that so when like there were like liberal men apparently who were the ones who were like, yes, sun your butthole. And that was like a viral article. And then the right was like, left men are gay and sunning their assholes. Like, I don't know.
God.
But then they are treating sunning their balls like it's so fucking like healthy and like woke. But I don't know. You both are wrong. And I'm here to say that you both are fucking wrong. Do not sun your balls. Do not sun your butthole. Those places aren't supposed to get sun. You will get cancer.
This is probably pretty fucked up to say. But like, I feel like Darwin was like on to something.
Just let him fucking do it.
No, it was like a natural selection. Have you ever read the Darwin Awards?
No.
Oh my god, it's the fucking best. It's this book that's just like all of these ways that people were like so stupid that they died. And it's like really stupid stuff. Like it's
Tide Pods.
Yeah, it's like stuff like that.
But
That's
those
like,
are
what the
children.
fuck were you thinking?
Like, knock it off.
Yeah, it's like, but there are things that you do that it's just like maybe, you know, this is just nature doing its thing.
Take a second, and maybe don't.
Yeah, maybe think about the thing you're about to do, and maybe check multiple sources before you do it.
Yeah, don't just ask some buff guy. It's appealing to want to believe a buff white man. But
believe me, I do it all the time.
where you just you're like, this buff white man is telling me the truth. But they're not scientists usually. So just because he has muscles doesn't mean he knows anything about health for everyone. He only knows how to take care of himself, and that's maybe he knows.
And that might be steroids. We don't know.
Yeah, it could be steroids. And who knows how he's feeling in his noodle, you know? He could be buff, but he could be fucked up in the head. Or he could have an eating disorder. So before you trust a buff white man, check your sources.
And I'm taking this with me on my dating strategy as well.
Yeah. Everyone should take this advice and apply it to everything. If you're a buff white man, this is nothing personal. We live in a world where like people just say things and we believe it and no one checks the facts. So
damn,
just check the facts and then also check the facts that checked the facts because they might have been paid.
That's so fucking true.
Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense.
It's like when you're reading a study and then it's like, this study was conducted by an entire group that we own.
Yes.
That's like so when the police investigate themselves for a crime they did.
That's so fucking true. It's like, I feel like there's like a little bit of ulterior motive.
We're going to look into this ourselves.
This doesn't feel super honest. There are like the whole like vaccines cause autism movement was paused. What? It's not paused. Unfortunately, it's still going very strong. It was caused by like this one doctor that was paid off by this group. And then he lost his license because he admitted that he fucking got paid off to say it. All this to say.
That happens so much.
That happens
so often.
Do your research. Don't sun your balls. Don't sun your butthole. Take your vitamins, but only the ones that you make sure are legit and in multiple sources.
Don't interact with any of your other medications.
Talk to your doctor. Go to a fucking doctor. Go to a doctor.